something happened in Bungoma that many people celebrated but very few actually understood.
Waluya! Unajua Waluya wakiamua wakuwe, yani Waluya wapige tu mtu tu wao tu president tu waamue tu ni aje, wacha wajaribu tu mtu wao, wanaweza tingiza nini siasa ya Kenya vibaya sana.
On the surface, it looked like yet another political event. Leaders took turns speaking. The crowd cheered. Edwin Sifuna was repeatedly urged to run for president.
Huyu kijana mahali anaenda, ukitaka, wajua kuna semekana Waswahili wanasema dalili ya mvua, mimi nikirusha mbali, naona huyu kijana akienda mbali.
He smiled. He did not reject the idea. In fact, he went a step further. He said that he would consult with the people, return to Bungoma for more engagements, and eventually hold a major rally in Nairobi to announce the decision that Kenyans would have reached.
I am going to organize a major meeting, we as Linda Mwananchi, this month here in Bungoma. Tutakuja Trans Nzoia Jumamosi, Jumapili tuingie Posta Grounds. Nilete viongozi wa kina mama, viongozi wa vijana, viongozi wa walimu wako hapa, tulete kila mtu, hata viongozi wa kanisa. Ile kitu mtaniambia niseme, nitaenda kusemea Nairobi. Munanielewa? Munanielewa?
For his supporters, that sounded like the strongest indication that he may be preparing for a presidential bid. But hidden among all those speeches was one statement that may have changed the entire political conversation. And surprisingly, it came from Rigathi Gachagua himself. Let's talk about it. If you love this kind of content, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. Now let's get to the video.
Sisi Waluya, sisi tumesema hatutaki urais, lakini tuna book deputy president.
You see, during that burial ceremony, Cleophas Malala, the deputy party leader for DCP, also addressed the gathering. At first glance, his remarks sounded supportive. He said that it did not matter who's going to be the next president, whether Rigathi Gachagua, Fred Okengo Matiang'i, or even Kalonzo Musyoka.
So wewe Kalonzo, Gachagua, Matiang'i, mukae chini. Mchague mtu mmoja.
But then he added something very specific. He said that the opposition should ensure that the deputy president position is actually reserved for Edwin Watenya Sifuna.
Na kwa united opposition, I am proposing today, we are fronting our son Edwin Sifuna, our deputy president.
The crowd applauded. Many people celebrated. But you see, politics is not just about the words that have been spoken. Sometimes it's about the words that have been deliberately chosen.
Mimi nataka kupropose leo hapa. Nataka Waluya ambao wako hapa mtuunge mkono. Kwamba kama Rigathi Gachagua anachaguliwa president, sawa, kwa united opposition. Kama ni Kalonzo, sawa. Kama ni Matiang'i, sawa. Lakini kiti ya deputy president, we must give our son Edwin Sifuna aenda kwenye kiti.
So then we must ask ourselves, what was really being said here? And if you read between the lines, the statement can be interpreted in a very different way, not as an endorsement of Sifuna, but as an attempt to define the limits of his political ambition.
In the united opposition, I'm bringing this conversation. The seat of the deputy president is reserved for us.
In simple terms, the message sounded like, you are welcome in the coalition, you are important, you have a future, but the presidency is not for you. At least, not yet. Whether that was the intended message or not, it is still one interpretation that any experienced political analyst would draw from those remarks.
Na kwa united opposition, I am proposing today, we are fronting our son Edwin Sifuna, our deputy president.
Then came Gachagua's remarks. Almost at the same time, Rigathi Gachagua was holding his consultative meetings at Wamonyoro.
Who will replace Kasongo Bado?
He made a point that also attracted attention. He said that the opposition had already agreed on one thing, that William Samoei Ruto should be a one-term president.
The decision he will be replaced has been made. Tumekubaliana? Decision ya kwamba lazima abadilishwe imekubalika.
but then he added that they have not yet agreed on who should be the president next.
As to who, bado. Mazungumzo naendelea? Tuendelee kuzungumza tusizungumze.
That, he said, would come later. On its own, that is a reasonable political position. Coalitions often avoid declaring a presidential candidate too early, but coming on the same day that Bungoma leaders were openly pushing Sifuna for the State House, many people interpreted that timing as significant.
You cannot confuse anybody. We are too intelligent. We know whom we are dealing with. We are careful. We are treading very carefully this time. Once bitten, twice shy.
This raises an uncomfortable question. What happens if the grassroots eventually rally behind Edwin Sifuna, but senior opposition leaders prefer someone else?
Kama Rigathi Gachagua anachaguliwa president sawa kwa United Opposition.
That is where the real political test begins, because coalitions are the easiest to build when everyone is united against a common opponent. But then they become much harder to maintain when the discussions shift to who gets the top job.
Kama unatoa William, weka mtu ambaye anakaa mzuri. Hata watu wa William watakubali, si ndio? Lakini utoe William uweke wa Munyoro, utabaki peke yako. Hapa utabaki peke yako.
But then there's another issue beneath all this, a generational change. Many young Kenyans increasingly want to see young leaders competing for the country's highest office. Meanwhile, many experienced politicians have spent decades building political careers and national networks.
Tuliwaambia Ruto aende mkakataa. Mkasema mwizi wetu. Tena mtuletee mwizi mwingine, my friend. Mtapatana na Caleb, nitawanyorosha. The biggest question becomes, is the opposition prepared to embrace a younger presidential candidate if that is what a significant portion of its supporters want? We are saying Linda Mwananchi presidential candidate is none other than Edwin Sifuna.
Or will personal interests continue to outweigh generational renewal?
We want them to help us commit to the duty of our generation. Our generation, they want a new person.
The other question that everyone is asking themselves is, can this actually divide the opposition?
Tukisema hivyo anasema unagawanya kura. Kura ya nani? Wewe uko na kura gani unagawanya?
That depends on how the coalitions actually manage expectations. Because if supporters of one candidate become convinced that the process is predetermined, frustrations can actually grow.
Na kwa United Opposition, I am proposing today, we are fronting our son Edwin Sifuna, our deputy president.
On the other hand, if coalition leaders establish a transparent and credible method for selecting a flag bearer, then they may be able to avoid unnecessary divisions.
Rigathi Gachagua now says the United Opposition is not in a hurry to name its joint presidential candidate to face off with President William Ruto at the ballot next year.
The challenge is that every principal enters the coalition with supporters who believe that their preferred leader is the strongest candidate.
Nimeambia Sifuna kama hawakupei kuwa rais wa taifa, wachana hii upuzi. Sisi tumesema sisi ni Sifuna uwe rais. Kama wewe si rais, wachana hii upuzi bwana. Hatuwezi kuwa tunafuata watu wa kabila.
You see, whether you support him or not, Edwin Sifuna has become one of the most recognizable young voices in Kenyan politics. His communication style, visibility, and ability to connect with sections of public have made him a significant figure in opposition politics.
Ati unangoja Sifuna akiongea, ati unaenda kupangisha watu laini hapo, alafu unaenda kusema kwa mitandao ati watu wamekataa Sifuna. Kwa sababu leo tunakujua wewe ndio utakuwa wa mwisho kutoka kwa hii matanga.
That does not automatically make him the strongest presidential candidate, nor does it guarantee that coalition partners will actually back him. But it does mean that his political ambition, whatever they ultimately become, cannot be simply ignored.
Ile kitu mtaniambia niseme, nitaenda kusemea Nairobi. Munanielewa? Munanielewa?
For now, there is no officially declared opposition flag bearer. Coalition leaders continue to insist that their immediate focus is building unity before settling for a candidate.
Who will replace Kasongo? Bado. But the decision he will be replaced has been made.
Whether that position holds as political competition intensifies remains to be seen. What is certain is that discussions about leadership, succession, and generational change are no longer taking place behind closed doors. They are happening in public.
Mbogi Waluya ikiamua tu ipige kura venye Wakikuyu wanapiganga, venye Wakalenjin upiga, venye Wakamba upiga, venye Wakisi upiga. Waluya ikiamua tu ni aje leo, wacha tukufe na Tambea, wacha wakufe na nani na Sifuna. Mtu wangu, siasa ya Kenya imebadilika hivyo.
Sisi Waluya, sisi tumesema hatutaki urais, lakini tuna book deputy president.
You see, politics is often about what has been said and also what hasn't been said. To many listeners, the Bungoma speeches represented a powerful endorsement of Edwin Sifuna's future.
Biblia inatuambia Mungu ataturejeshea miaka yote ambayo ililiwa na nzige.
To others, the remarks from DCP leaders suggested a different message, that while Sifuna has an important place within the opposition, some leaders may envision that place differently from his supporters.
Thank you so much, our presidential candidate.
Whether those differing visions eventually become a serious source of tension will depend on how the opposition manages the difficult conversation that still lies ahead. Not whether William Samoei Ruto will face a united challenger, but who that challenger is going to be. Subscribe.